All right, this evening we are going to tackle 1 Samuel chapter 9. It's a relatively lengthy chapter. Hopefully we'll get through it. If not, we'll divide it up between now and Wednesday. Now you recall in chapter 8, the Israelites had demanded of Samuel that he appoint for them a new king. God told Samuel to give them a warning as to what that would entail, but then to go ahead and grant their request. And Samuel then told everybody to go home. Well, in chapter 9, we see the result of that as to how God chose who the new king would be. It said, now there was a man of Benjamin. Now I'm going to stop right there. You know, one of the things that they had asked for wasn't just a king, but a king so they could be like everybody else. And right off the bat, you'll notice that we see here that this is going to be a man of the tribe of Benjamin. Does anybody catch the significance of that?
I think that's what the blessing on Benjamin was on Joseph.
Benjamin, though, already had the well-deserved reputation of being the rebel tribe of all the 12. And in fact, if you go back to the book of Judges, you'll find that Israel, only a generation before, had had a civil war, and the men of the tribe of Benjamin had almost been wiped out. They were the smallest tribe because of the civil war. There was only a few of the men left. And the bottom line was, what had started a lot of it was Benjamin. They not only were rebels in the sense of having a rebel mentality, but they actively opposed a lot of the other things that Israel was commanded to do. Benjamin basically were, as a tribe, they were troublemakers. So right off the bat, we see if they want somebody like everybody else, God's going to pick them somebody from the most rebellious tribe of the bunch. All right, so there was a man of Benjamin.
Wasn't Benjamin Joseph's little brother?
He was.
So that after Joseph became the most powerful man in all of Egypt, and all his brothers came to live there, and all of them became important, wealthy men, I imagine that Benjamin was probably pretty spoiled by his big brother.
Well, as an individual, I'm sure Benjamin was, but apparently that didn't stop with just him.
Yeah, I'm thinking that they began with the father of the line.
Could be. But as I said, at this point in history, Benjamin is by far the smallest tribe of the bunch because of the rebellion, and they've just about been wiped out. So now there was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, the son of Bechereth, the son of Aphiah, the son of a Benjamite, a mighty man of valor. So now the second thing that we're told, not only is we given a brief genealogy of them, but we're told that he was a mighty man. Now, by the way, when it says a mighty man of valor, there's two possible translations of that. A man of valor is one possibility. The other meaning that word has is that he was a man of extreme wealth. Now, considering what we have already been told about his genealogy and what we're going to see as we continue in the next 2 to 3 verses, I'm not so sure that a man of wealth isn't the better translation, because apparently Saul was, at least his family, were filthy rich. All right, it says he had a son whose name was Saul, a choice and handsome man, and there was not a more handsome person there than he among the sons of Israel. From his shoulders and up, he was taller than any of the people. Now, let's stop there. How did the Israelites compare with the Philistines? Anybody remember?
The Philistines were giants.
Yeah,
Compared to
Philistines were much taller, and they had giants among their population. So what do we see here? They've asked for someone to lead them like all the rest of the nations. And we're told that apparently not only is Saul rich, but that he was probably a head taller than everybody else. He's good looking and a big man. So are you starting to see a pattern here? God's given them exactly what they want.
They're looking for earthly stature.
And he was. Saul was, if he was a head taller, Saul was probably pushing 7 feet tall. A whole lot like the Philistines. Now verse 3 says, Now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. So Kish said to his son Saul, Take now with you one of the servants, and arise, go search for the donkeys. And he passed through the hill country of Ephraim, and passed through the land of Shelishah, but they did not find them. Then they passed through the land of Shaalim, but they were not there. Then he passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they did not find them. When they came to the land of Zuph, Saul said to his servant who was with him, Come and let us return, lest my father cease to be concerned about the donkeys and become anxious for us. Now, on the surface, this would seem to be just a a very nonchalant description of Saul and his one servant looking for some donkeys. But here's the problem with this. If they were a herd of donkeys, do you not think that after about 3 days of wandering all over the place, that somebody wouldn't know where a lost herd of donkeys was? Saul spends 3 days, and he and his servant can't even find a simple herd of donkeys.
And they wandered through the lands of several different peoples.
Exactly.
Still didn't find them.
Now, and if you know anything about donkeys, donkeys don't generally run off and just take off down the road. They probably were somewhere nearby. Yeah, donkeys tend, they're home. Donkeys are homebodies. They're not going to go very far. They might have been within probably less than a mile from the house. So why doesn't Saul know this? He spends 3 days wandering all over the place when 9 times out of 10, the donkeys probably might have been just a couple of hilltops over. Which tells you that Saul's not...
He ain't the sharpest pencil.
He ain't the sharpest pencil in the pack. What's that? Go ahead.
Lights on, no one's home.
Yeah. All right. At least he's got enough common sense after about 3 days to realize that, well, Daddy may be worried about us now.
But he decides to go consult a holy man.
Yeah. Well, but not really. You might have misread that. Let's look at it. Verse 6. And he said to him, Behold now, there is a man of God in this city, and the man is held in honor. All that he says surely comes true. Now let us go there. Perhaps he can tell us about our journey on which we have set out. Then Saul said to his servant, But behold, if we go, what shall we bring the man? Now, you can tell from the context there, the idea to go seek out the prophet wasn't Saul's. That's the servant telling Saul, is like, Saul, we're in Zuph now. By the way, and the Bible makes this very clear that before they referred to them as prophets, they were seers. Said, let's go see this seer that's here, lives here in this town. Now, here's the problem with this. If you look on a map from where Saul's home was to the town of Zuph, was less than 5 miles away. Now, Saul's an adult, I don't say he's an older man, but he's a man at this point. He's been around for a few years. 5 miles down the road from the most famous man in all of Israel at this point in history. And Saul doesn't know about him. He has to be told about this seer by his servant. Now, what does that tell you about Saul's relationship with reality if he lives that would be like us, out here in this community, and the President of the United States has got his home out, on the other side of Chiefland, and we didn't know about it.
He's in his own little world.
Again, at this point in history, Samuel is, without a doubt, the most famous man in the country. 5 miles away, and Saul doesn't know who he is or that he lives there.
It also shows that he didn't have a godly upbringing.
That's another good possibility. Now, here's the other problem. By the way, I can tell you right now, we're going to get through this one section, probably about down to verse 14. That's as far as we're going to get tonight. Here's the other problem. Verse 7. Saul says to his servants, "Behold, if we go, what shall we bring the man? For the bread is gone from our sack, and there is no present to bring to the man of God. What do we have?" What is Saul suggesting here?
He needs to bring a present to the man of God, not to God.
Yeah, well, not just that.
Pay him off.
You got to pay him off. Saul thinks that in order to go see this guy, we got to pay him off to get anything out of him. How many times have we seen in the Bible where even, the apostles were, we had Simon the sorcerer who, had been saved, wanted to somehow pay the the apostles to teach him to do what they did. And it's like, no. They condemned him for that. You don't accept payment for this kind of stuff. Now, does the Bible support paying a man who does professional ministry a decent salary? Absolutely it does. But the idea that you can't go see a man of God unless you've got money in your sack or something of value to pay him for what he's going to provide for you, that's unbiblical. And certainly, if Saul had been a man of God, he'd have known that you don't have to go see Samuel and ask for help and have to bring money to pay him off. We do, in fact, have an example of a prophet in the Old Testament that plied his wares for payment, but he's the one prophet in the Old Testament that's actually condemned for it. Does anybody know who it was? What was that?
Balaam.
Thank you. Exactly. They tried to pay him off, and he accepted it, and he got himself in trouble. All right, verse 8. And the servant answered Saul again and said, "Behold, I have in my hand a fourth of a shekel of silver. I will give it to the man of God, and he will tell us our way." By the way, a fourth of a shekel wasn't much.
Quarter?
Maybe. Verse 9, formerly in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, he used to say, "Come and let us go to the seer," or he who is called a prophet, now was formerly called a seer. And there we go. Then Saul said to his servant, well said, "Come and let us go." So they went to the city where the man of God was. And as they went up the slope to the city, they found young women going out to draw water, and said to them, "Is the seer here?" And they answered them and said, "He is." See, he is ahead of you. Hurry now, for he has come into the city today, for the people have a sacrifice on the high place today. By the way, recall that Samuel, even though he was not born a Levite, was able to do this with God's blessings, because as we'll recall, when he was taken to the tabernacle, he was adopted by Eli, and so he was a legitimate Levite, not by birth, but by adoption. And as soon as you enter the city, you will find him before he goes up to the high place to eat. For the people will not eat until he comes, because he must bless the sacrifice. Afterward, those who were invited will eat. Now therefore, go up, for you will find him at once. So they went into the city. As they came into the city, behold, Samuel was coming out toward them to go up to the high place. Now, we don't know exactly what this celebration was about. It's theorized that it may have been some kind of a family celebration, possibly Samuel's own family, because it was by invitation only, which tells us this was not a usual celebration according to the law. It was just, they were having a party. And only those who were invited to the party could go. Now it's interesting that Saul and his servant, at the urging of just a group of ladies at the edge of town, decide to crash the party. Which, what does that tell us about Saul?
Not exactly loyal.
Well, he's either socially inept or, as you mentioned earlier, he's a spoiled brat who thinks he's privileged.
Rich and arrogant.
Rich and arrogant. The fact that he can just march into an invitation-only party.
Thinks he's that self-important.
Self-importance.
Yes.
So, what we see here is a man who is socially inept, spiritually ignorant, physically handsome and taller than everybody else, but not real bright. This is the king that, yeah, we can point the finger at God and say, well, God's the one that picked the man, but God picked the man that was exactly what the Israelites wanted. Someone who would be just like the rest of the world, that would lead them to be like everybody else. And notice, to be like everybody else, your leadership's got to be dumb, spiritually inept, look nice,
Vain.
but vain, but not real bright.
Sounds like the Democratic Party.
I was going to say, it sounds like a lot of our leaders today, don't it?
That he was a head taller than everyone else, and they made that reference to mighty man of valor. That made me think of the Nephilim. The references to the mighty men of valor,
Well,
and they were giants.
Again, the problem with that is that particular Hebrew word in some versions is translated valor, others is wealth. It's one of those words that could mean either one. And maybe the reason that the biblical writer chose that word is because it was intended to mean both. Sometimes, we overlook the fact that it may not be an either or, it could be a both and.
Mm-hmm.
He was filthy rich, and, but some people who are supposedly courageous sometimes aren't as courageous as they are stupid.
They don't know any better.
They don't know any better.
Yeah.
Dumb to be scared.
All right, well, we will pick up in verse 15 on Wednesday. But as you can see, they're being led down the primrose path to stupidity. But that's what it takes whenever you want to be like the rest of the world. All right, hymn number 4.